You wake up before your alarm even rings, not because you're excited, but because your mind is already running. Bills, work, responsibilities. You grab your phone, check your bank account, and for a second, you feel okay. There's money in there, not a lot, but not zero either. And somehow that's become your definition of doing fine. Then the day starts. You rush through your routine. Maybe you skip breakfast. Coffee becomes your fuel. You head to work, stuck in the same traffic, the same road, the same thoughts. And somewhere in that routine, a question shows up. How long am I going to do this? Look, you're not lazy. You're not irresponsible. You've been doing what you're supposed to do, working hard, saving when you can, maybe even investing a little. And yet, it still feels like you're not getting anywhere. Here's the thing. If effort alone was enough, you wouldn't feel stuck right now. So maybe the problem isn't how hard you're working. Maybe it's something else entirely. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now look, I didn't always think about money this way. For a long time, I believed what most people believe, that if you just work hard, save consistently, and avoid mistakes, everything will eventually fall into place. And to be fair, that sounds logical. But over time, I started noticing something that didn't quite add up. People with similar jobs, similar incomes, even similar lifestyles were ending up in completely different financial situations. Some were moving forward. Others were stuck in the same cycle for years. That's when I realized something important. Money isn't just about effort. It's about understanding how the system actually works. And more importantly, how to make it work in your favor. So let's talk about the advice you've probably heard your entire life. Save your money. Avoid debt. Invest as early as possible. Now, on the surface, that all sounds solid. And look, it's not wrong. But here's the thing. It's incomplete. Because real life isn't that simple. You're not just dealing with one decision. You're dealing with multiple at the same time. You might have money in savings earning almost nothing. At the same time, you could have debt quietly growing in the background. And somewhere in between, you're trying to invest, hoping it all balances out. Now you might be thinking, isn't doing all three a good thing? Not necessarily, because when everything feels important, nothing gets prioritized correctly. And that's where most people get stuck. Here's what most people don't realize. It's not just about what you do with money. It's about the order in which you do it. Because the sequence of your decisions can either accelerate your progress or quietly hold you back for years without you even noticing. So let's break this down with real numbers. Imagine you have $10,000. Option 1, you invested in the stock market, earning around 8% per year. That gives you about $800 in gains annually. Sounds good, right? Now here's the second scenario. You have $10,000 in credit card debt at 20% interest. That's costing you $2,000 every single year. Now you might be thinking, I'll just invest and slowly pay off the debt. But look, that means you're making $800 while losing $2,000. You're not moving forward, you're going backwards. Here's the thing. Paying off that debt is the equivalent of earning a guaranteed 20% return. No volatility, no uncertainty. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because once you see money this way, your decisions start to change. It's no longer about what feels right. It's about what actually works. So if the math is this obvious, why do so many people still get it wrong? Because money decisions aren't just logical, they're emotional. Look, every time you get paid, there's a quiet battle happening in your head. One side says, be responsible, save it, invest it. The other side says, you worked hard, you deserve this. And more often than not, the second voice wins. That's instant gratification. Your brain is wired to prioritize short-term rewards over long-term gains. Now add something else into the mix, loss aversion. Here's what most people don't realize. Losing $100 feels more painful than gaining $100 feels good. So instead of aggressively paying off debt, people hold on to cash because it feels safer, even if that decision is quietly costing them more over time. And then there's risk perception. Investing feels risky because it moves up and down. Debt doesn't feel risky because it's familiar. But in reality, high-interest debt is one of the most predictable losses you can have. And once you understand that, you start to see why so many smart, hardworking people stay stuck financially. So what separates people who stay stuck from those who quietly build wealth? It's not luck. It's not even income. It's how they think about money. Look, most people see money as something to protect, something to hold on to, something that gives them a sense of security just by sitting in their bank account. But wealthy people see it differently. They see money as a tool, a resource, something that needs to be deployed. Here's the thing. Every dollar you have is either working for you or against you. There is no neutral. Cash sitting idle, losing value to inflation. High interest debt, actively pulling you backwards. Smart investments, slowly pushing you forward. And this is where it gets really interesting. Because wealthy people don't ask, is this a good decision? They ask, what is the return on this decision? They think in terms of efficiency, optimization, leverage, not emotions, not habits, not comfort. Once you shift into that mindset, money stops being confusing and starts becoming a system you can actually control. So let's put structure behind this idea. Because once you understand the system, everything becomes clearer. The formula is simple. Wealth equals income minus expenses, multiplied by return, multiplied by time. Now look, that might sound basic, but this is where most people miss the point. They focus on one part and ignore the rest. Some people obsess over cutting expenses. Others only think about investing, and a few focus only on increasing income. But real progress happens when all four parts work together. Here's the thing. If your income is low, there's only so much you can optimize. If your expenses are out of control, your progress gets canceled out. If your return is weak, your money grows too slowly. And if you waste time, none of it compounds the way it should. This is where it gets really interesting, because small improvements in each area don't just add up. They multiply. And that's how ordinary numbers turn into real wealth over time. So how do you actually apply all of this? Because understanding the formula is one thing, but using it in real life is where everything changes. Let's make this simple. Step 1, build a small emergency fund. Not something huge, just enough to cover unexpected situations. Around $1,000 to $3,000 is a solid start. This isn't about growing wealth yet. It's about protecting yourself from going backwards. Step 2, eliminate high-interest debt. Anything above 8 to 10% needs to go, fast. Here's the thing. Every extra dollar you put toward that debt is giving you a guaranteed return. No risk, no waiting. Step 3, start investing while managing low-interest debt. If your debt is around 3 to 5%, you don't have to pause investing completely. You can do both, because over time, your investments will likely outperform that cost. Now you might be thinking, what if I don't have enough money to do all this? That's where step 4 comes in. Increase your income. This is the most overlooked move. A higher income gives you more flexibility, more speed, and more options. And finally, stay consistent. Because none of this works if you stop halfway. So let's bring this all together. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about numbers. It's about direction. Look, two people can earn the exact same income. They can live in the same city, have similar expenses, and even follow the same general advice, and still end up in completely different financial situations. Why? Because one of them is intentional, and the other is just reactive. Here's the thing. Your financial life doesn't improve by accident. It improves when every dollar you earn has a clear purpose, not just sitting in your account, not just disappearing into random expenses, but being directed strategically. This is where it gets really interesting. Because once you start assigning a job to every dollar, your money stops feeling limited and starts feeling controlled. You stop guessing. You stop hoping, and you start making decisions with clarity. So if you've been feeling stuck, this is your shift. Not working harder, not stressing more, but thinking differently. Because over time, that's what actually builds wealth.